If you've been listening to this podcast over the last few weeks, you've heard me talk about the mismatch, the idea that most former athletes aren't broken, they're just running a system designed for a younger version of themselves. This week, I want to show you what happens when you fix that mismatch, not in theory, but in data, my own data. 8 weeks ago, I scanned myself on the InBody at Templetown, and the numbers didn't reflect how I was training. So I ran a structured 8-week block to see what would change. And here's what happened. In February, I was training, I was active, I was doing enough on paper. But when I scanned, the numbers told a different story. 12.6% body fat, 7.8 kilos of fat mass, waist at 77.6 centimeters, visceral fat at level 2. I wasn't in bad shape, but the numbers didn't match the effort. And that's the exact pattern that I see with clients every single week. People come in to me and say, Paul, I'm training, I'm eating all right, but the body isn't reflecting it. And when we dig into it, the problem is almost never effort. The problem is that the system underneath the effort, that was my situation. Effort was there, the return wasn't enough because the inputs weren't aligned tightly enough. I could have easily kept going. Most people do. They assume the body just stops responding and they accept it. But I wanted to test whether tightening the structure, the same structure that I coach other people through, would actually move the numbers. So that's what I did. Here's what the block actually looked like. Training 4 strength sessions per week, not 5, not 6, 4. I used a structured program with progressive overload, adding weight or volume systematically each week, not random sessions, not training to failure every day. Structured, intentional training with clear targets for each session. Nutrition, protein locked in at 150 grams per day, non-negotiable. This was the single biggest change. I restructured my meals around hitting that target. Eggs for breakfast instead of cereal, chicken at lunch, protein shake after training, simple swaps, not a dramatic overhaul, a slight calorie deficit, not aggressive, not starving myself. I dropped roughly 200 to 300 calories per day below maintenance, enough to shift fat while keeping training performance high. The moment performance drops, the deficit is too aggressive. That's a rule I follow with clients, and I followed it on myself. Cardio was 2 easy sessions per week. Leg cycling, zone 2, which just means easy enough that you could hold a conversation. Nothing brutal, nothing that required recovery. I treated sleep like a training variable for recovery. Not perfect, but I aimed for 78 hours and tracked it on my Garmin. I also included proper deloads, lighter training weeks built into the program to let the body catch up. And I competed at the Trika Open in April, finished in 1 hour 14 minutes. The competition wasn't the goal of the block, but it was a useful test of whether the training was actually building capacity or just making me tired. That's it. No magic supplements, no secret protocols, no extreme measures, just a structured approach that respects how a 40-year-old body actually works. I scanned again in April, 8 weeks later. Body fat mass was 5.9 kilos, down from 7.8. That's 1.9 kilos of pure fat loss. Skeletal muscle mass, 31.3 kilos, which was up from 30.7. That's 0.6 kilos of muscle gained. Body fat percentage, 9.7%, down from 12.6%. Waist, 74 centimeters, down from 77.6. That's 3.2 centimeters off the waist. Visceral fat level 1, down from level 2. And here's the part that matters most. My body weight went from 61.4 kilos to 60.8. That's a loss of 0.6 kilos on the scales. If I had been measuring progress by body weight alone, I would have thought that nothing happened. Half a bag of sugar in 8 weeks. Most people would quit at that point. But as you can see, the InBody told a completely different story. I lost nearly 2 kilos of body fat, gained over half a kilo of muscle, and took 3 centimeters off my waist. The body completely changed composition while the weight barely moved. This is why I tell every client, Stop chasing weight loss alone. Start paying more attention to body composition. The scales are the least useful metric in the room. They can't see recomposition. They can't see the difference between fat and muscle. They only tell you one number, and that number misleads more people than any other metric in fitness. Waist measurement, how your clothes fit, how you look, how you perform, how you recover. These are all better indicators of progress than just a number on the scales. So why don't most people get this result? It comes down to 4 things I see over and over. 1, they're chasing scale weight. They step on the scales every morning, and if the number doesn't drop, they think that the plan isn't working. So they either restrict harder or quit. Both responses are wrong. 2, they're under eating protein. This is the big one. Most adults I work with are eating 60 to 100 grams when they need 110 grams, depending on their size. That gap is why the body can't rebuild between sessions. The soreness compounds, the niggles stick, the body stays the same because it doesn't have the materials to change. 3, they add in more training instead of improving structure. When results stall, most people add volume, another session, more cardio, longer workouts, but if the structure is wrong, more of it just creates more organized damage. Better inputs beat more inputs every time. 4, they treat sleep and recovery as optional. At 40, recovery is where adaptation happens. If you're sleeping 5 hours and training hard, you're breaking yourself down without giving your body the time to rebuild. Sleep is not a luxury, it's a training variable. Fix those 4 things and the body responds, even after 40, even after years of feeling stuck. If you're listening to this and thinking, that's exactly my situation, I'm training, I'm trying, but the body won't budge, your body hasn't stopped responding. The system just needs updating. You probably don't need a harder program, you need a better matched one. More protein, fewer junk sessions, better recovery, a structure that fits your actual life, the job, the kids, the stress, the broken sleep. That's what I build for the people I coach. And that's what I proved works on myself this month. If any of this landed and you're ready to fix the system, I want to hear from you. DM me the word rebuild on Instagram. I'll send you the application. Takes about 4 minutes. If it's a fit, we'll have a conversation. If it's not, I'll tell you straight. If you're not ready to apply, but you want to see where the gaps are, I'll put together the former athlete blueprint. It's the baseline we use to start every rebuild. The link is in the show notes and in my Instagram bio. And if you're local to Carnford and you want to train in a small group coaching environment with this kind of structure, DM me info. I have a few spots available. One last thing, if this episode made you think of someone, a lad or a woman who's been training for years and wondering why the body won't change, send it on to them. This might be the episode that clicks. Talk to you next week.